Well, the first thing that kind of just popped out to me as I was doing the math at today's standards of what a price of silver is,
Oh
and
yeah.
well, if you think about how wealthy Abraham was, you can really get the context of like, dude, what is 400 pieces of silver between you and me? Like, just bury your dead. Like, why are we talking about this? You know,
Yeah,
it was like $3,000 in today's money would be like 400 shekels of silver, something like that.
yeah.
And for a guy that has 300 servants that are warriors that can go rescue Lot, like it's nothing.
Dude was wealthy.
He was. Yeah, that's I love how Jubilees puts it in chapter 17. It says that one of the tests of Abraham, that he had 10 tests in his life, and one of the tests was that he was given the wealth of kings.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, he was a wealthy dude. So Ephron, it seemed like it said he was sitting with the other elders of the Hittites at the gates. So at the city gates. So it means, I'm assuming he was one of the elders also. And so therefore he had this land and they could do this transaction in the sight of the other elders, so that it was accounted for. It was validated. There could be no hearsay. There could be no Ephron later saying, "Oh, I didn't sell that to him." Like he did it the right way. He didn't want it as a gift. Just like back in Genesis 14, he didn't want to take anything from the king of Sodom as a gift. He wanted, so I think this is interesting that he does this, because we're going to see this also in Ruth, about how there's a transaction of land done amongst the elders of the city so that it's verified properly according to Torah. So whether the Hittites followed Torah or not, they did have the same practices of adjudication, administration, and judgment amongst their elders in how they did real estate transactions. And so I think that's interesting, because this is just him going through the motions properly and doing it with respect. I love how Jubilees says that he was patient in this moment, and it actually talks about how he knew that the Father had already given them this land, and that it was technically his by the word of the Almighty, but yet he was still willing to go through the motions with the Hittites and pay for it for a burial plot, even though he knows he's going to inherit it forever when the kingdom comes. So it's just kind of interesting that he's going through the motions with these people who are traditionally enemies of the covenant of Israel, and so he's still treating them with kindness and patience, and patient in spirit, to go through these motions to bury his wife. And this cave actually becomes kind of a commonly referenced thing as we go forward in the chapters. Everybody gets buried there. If we could find this cave, guys, this cave has got all these patriarchs. Awesome. Wouldn't that be an amazing find?
Yeah. I think one of the things that's interesting is you're talking about, how they're doing Torah, even though they're technically, enemies of his. Clearly, Abraham's behavior towards them his character was that he was upright and just and treated them fairly, because at the beginning, when he asked, they're like, nobody would deny you. What do you want? So clearly the relationship that he has with them, even though they're outside of Torah, is such that when you're abiding in the commandments and obeying God, like, it's attractive to the world. So I found that interesting.
Yeah, it's a great example of loving your enemies in this chapter with Abraham.
Yeah, it really is. And they did seem to have a good amount of respect for him. They called him a great man. So that's they acknowledged that he was. Well, of course, we read last portion last week that he had those interactions with Abimelech, the king of Gerar, one of the Philistine kings, and that they had made a pact together to not interfere with each other's business over this well. And so that's interesting. So I wonder if word traveled throughout the area that, hey, the king of Gerar respects this guy. Gave him a whole bunch of cattle and wealth and things.
Is that the original word of mouth marketing?
Exactly, right? Spread throughout the land, like, who's this dude, this sojourner standing in our land that came over from Chaldea, and he's
watch out for that guy.
Yeah, for real. His God is with him, man. He's amazing.